Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. Welcome back to a fresh new episode of Knock Off the Perch, a Manchester United podcast. This will be a two-parter. In the first part, we discuss the draw against FC Porto, and then the second part, we'll be discussing the upcoming match against Aston Villa. This is me, Dheeraj, and joining me is my co-host Aruj, and we'll be starting with the disappointing draw against FC Porto. Hey, Aruj, how you been? What did you make of the match?
All well. After the game, it felt it was a disappointment. But come to think of it, the position we have been in over the last 2-3 weeks, getting a away draw at Porto is not that bad a result, considering they are supposedly one of the best oppositions we have to face. It was an away game and all of that. But I think the fact that we went 2-0 up by the 20th minute is what made the result a little more disappointing. And which is where I think this team really needs to up their game. We can't keep downing our tools when we have the lead. And this was something we have seen in the past. But yeah, I am on the balance of things, I'm pretty okay with the draw away at Porto. But hopefully it doesn't negatively impact the Europa League campaign too much.
Not true. The redemption arc was on for Eric Ten Hag and the team. We started very well. We scored two quick-fire goals from both our forwards. We were making spaces. We were moving the ball very quickly. Even though Porto had some initial chances, we were keeping them at bay. But this has become a common theme. I'll talk specifically about Europe. This was the theme in Europe last season in Champions League. We'd scored goals, but we'd concede so many of them. And last season it was Onana. Now the mistakes have been coming from the outfield players. When you are 2-0 up, shouldn't the obvious thing to do is to keep the ball well, move the ball well, let the other team make mistakes and try and capitalize that and score the third one. I mean, I don't see how we go from a 2-0 position and ending the game at a 3-3. That's beyond my comprehension, man.
No, you're right. I think this happened with Galatasaray. This happened at FC Copenhagen. And in the preview to this one, we talked about that this particular United team tends to buckle under pressure, especially in away games. Exact same situation happened earlier as well, right? Galatasaray, we went 2-0 up in the first maybe 20 minutes. Then I think that was also a 3-3 draw. Copenhagen, we again went 2-0 up. I think by the 28th minute, we lost that one 4-3 if I remember correctly. So this has been happening, and which is where I think this is one thing that is not so much on the manager, but I think the mental fragility of this team. This team tends to buckle under pressure very quickly. And as you said, maybe game management, okay, the coaching staff can maybe put in certain instructions to say what is it that we need to do when we are in certain situations. But I'm pretty sure that's, if you and I sitting here can talk about the common sense behind it, of how is it that you manage games well, I'm sure the coaching staff is also talking about it. But the players somehow tend to buckle, when there is an iota of pressure that the opposition comes with. And the same thing happened in this one. I mean, 2-2 within like 15 minutes, conceding 2 after you have scored and gone 2-0 up. I'm very disappointed the fact that that happened. So,
and it's not just minor chances. We tend to give away big chances away to teams. We tend to let the teams not just breathe down our neck, we let them, dominate us. Porto had 5 big chances in the game. Even though we had double the shots, they had some around 14-15 shots. We had about 30 shots. Yet Porto was able to make 5 big chances out of that. Where do we, if I were to put the blame right now, do I go to the defense? Do I go to the tactics? Or do I think it's a personnel issue or is it a management issue? We keep talking about that. Okay, let's talk in silo about the Porto game. Where do you think we lost the game?
I think the fact that we went 2-0 up, and this has slightly tactical connotations to it as well. I felt we sort of took our foot off the pedal a little bit. We came on the back foot a little. We let the opposition put a little more pressure on us. So that was the first thing. And the second thing was that our players just couldn't take any sort of pressure that the opposition and the opposition crowd also, I will bring that in, were able to place. The moment that started happening, some of these players look like they're like prime Ronaldo, like R9, Omorodion, although he was really good. De Ligt just couldn't deal with him. I think initially when Mazraoui was trying to deal with him, I think Mazraoui headed the ball towards own goal. Onana saved that, but the other opposition player latched onto it, scored. Then the other 2 goals from Omorodion were he was totally physically outclassing De Ligt, and that shouldn't be happening. And for that matter, if we are talking about personnel as well, Licha had a really poor game once again. And we've been talking about the fact that whenever he has a decent game, we tend to do well. But over the last couple of games, he has not been playing that well. We have been conceding a lot of goals. So it is a mix of tactics plus the players, but I don't know what is the solve for that.
Ten Hag was asked in his post-match conference that how come world-class defenders like De Ligt, Licha, Mazraoui, Dalo, they are caught in position that they cannot deal with the attacks. Why is this the defense, which is supposedly, one of the best ones in Europe, performing the way it is performing right now? He very diplomatically answered that he sees it as a team game, that everyone has to defend. The whole team has to defend. While I agree with the pressing situations, once the ball has left the midfield, the onus is on defenders. We've been spoiled by seeing Rio, Vidic, all of these world-class defenders who would take it on their pride if they lost a goal like that. Where is the pride? We are so spoiled in seeing good defenders across the years, and if we cannot defend against Porto, how are we supposed to defend against the prime teams in the Premier League? This is shambolic. I put the blame on defense completely, because we did create enough number of chances. We scored enough number of goals, which should be 3 goals away at Porto should be enough to win the game.
No, fair point. But I will not completely take the onus away from the management, the coaching staff. See, firstly, the first 2 goals that came, they were completely at Diego Costa's fault. I mean, if he was on top form, which he did sort of display in the later parts of the game, at that...
Diego Dalo.
No, Diego Costa, the goalkeeper.
Oh, their goal. Okay.
Their goalkeeper. So, at his near post, and they were not like really powerful goals or anything, he should be saving those. So I'm glad that we were able to create those chances. I'm glad the ball went in, but they were sort of soft goals, lucky goals for us. We went 2-0 up, and we didn't take care of the game management after that, conceded the ball to the opposition. They came back in, and we started the second half really badly. I mean, if I remember correctly, right in the second minute, 2 passes and our entire midfield and the defense was open from the left. They took a shot. I think Onana did well to save that one. But then again, 2 minutes later, from the right, this time they made another chance, and Omoridion completely outmuscled De Ligt, and they got that goal. Since then, okay, I think once we went 2-3 down, we did create a few chances. Garnacho, and we'll talk about Garnacho's entry into the game as well a little bit. I think he was doing all he could, but he was pretty much alone is what I felt. He was taking a lot of shots on, he was taking a lot of opponents on to be able to create those shots, but nothing was working out. And towards the last minute, Kamet the man, Harry Maguire continues to showcase he can do it for the team in the difficult moments, possibly saving Eric Ten Hag's job. I don't know, I wouldn't get too much into that, but did well to score that header. And I think one more thing, I think it's been a recurring theme this year. We've been relatively better on the set pieces, so that is another positive that I think we should be taking. But yeah, so that is how the game panned out. But let us talk about Garnacho's entry into the game, which was at 45th minute, Rashford being taken off, who was doing really well in the first half. For a change, I saw whenever an opportunity came through, he was looking at making the right pass. I think it was initially in the first 10 minutes when he played a cute ball in towards Rasmus Højlund, and I think it was the Porto defender who got the ball and it was close to being an own goal. Then again for the Højlund goal, he played the ball to him. Otherwise, he could have maybe taken another touch and tried to shoot, which he would have done in some of the earlier days. So Rashford was playing the team game. Whenever an opportunity came to take a shot, he was doing that. Whenever an opportunity came to pass, he was doing that. I think he was fairly well in intercepting the opposition as well. So he was really good, and I thought it may be some sort of a knock or an injury to him. But later Ten Hag comes and says it was for rotation. I mean, you're 2-2 at halftime in pretty much a very critical game where for your own managerial career at United, you probably need to win this. You've drawn the first game at home to 20. For the Europa League campaign, you need to win this, and you take your best player off for rotation. I didn't understand that.
I don't quite believe when he said it is for rotation only purpose. I believe we were getting bombarded from that wing in that game, and that is one of the main reasons why he was taken off. But that being said, that brings the point that you cannot be taking your best attacking players when they have momentum on. He did that in the Premier League game as well. Crystal Palace, when Rashford had the momentum and he was not playing, and we kind of got punished because of that. We didn't take up, best chances. Even though we created enough chances, we didn't take our chances. This game, again, if a player is on top of his game, you compensate his defending abilities by some other player rather than substituting your best offensive player on the pitch. I think in his mind, okay, I understood that Garnacho comes and, creates a lot of chances. He's also very direct. To him, it was a like-to-like change, but someone who's in his best form, these players, these attacking players, feed off on confidence, right? They score one goal and they want to score one more. These are our hungry players. These are our, scoring goals is their bread and butter. But if we keep on making substitutions like that, his substitutions were, I don't know, baffling, man. I mean, he removed Rashford in a game in which we are, in which we are losing. He brings on two central defenders. One of them,
but he would argue that the central defender won us threw us the game equalized.
Saved his job for some time. But yeah, baffling nevertheless, right?
No, absolutely. And which is where, I understand bringing Garnacho on, that is very critical. But I don't know, maybe wait till the 60th minute. Haaland anyways will not play more than 60 minutes. It's his first start of the season. Rashford can move up top. Garnacho can come to the left or something on those lines. Yeah. Rashford, when he is on top form, you don't take him off, is what my thought process is. And I think some of the decision making from Erik ten Hag, almost sometimes feel that it is very straightforward and it is not, there are very limited layers to that thinking and thought process. Sometimes it just comes out like that. Earlier in the season, we were seeing a lot of, how wingers were being played. You could almost predict that he'll be like, okay, we'll give 2 games to a player to start and the third winger will come on as a substitute. And, he was chopping and changing with those wingers. Again, pretty straightforward here. Okay, I have to bring Garnacho on left wing. Maybe Garnacho will do a little bit more defensive duty as well. Okay, take Rashford off. I somehow just don't understand some of those, and you need to be a little more layered in your decision making. Talking about decision making.
You know what it screams out to me? This also screams out to me that maybe our manager doesn't know his best front three, and giving them equal number of minutes might be his way of finding out his front three. And I know what you were going to, segue into. and one person who calls out for benching for some reality check is our captain Bruno Fernandes. Yeah. After 242 games for Manchester United, wherein we didn't see any disciplinary issues from him. We did see some mourning issues from him, in which he minds every game. But last 2 games, 2 red cards. And okay, 1 red card was overturned. He slipped and whatnot. He has to be careful in the next game. He cannot go on and get a red card in 2.
You could go ahead and argue that, for the second yellow card, he doesn't really touch the player. He goes for the ball and this and that. But come on, man, you're the captain of the team. You're on a yellow card. You can't be going such a high boot and all of that. So, I don't know. It just feels that Bruno is mentally also not at the top of his game. He's making these wrong decisions, wrong choices in terms of how to deal with some of these situations, which is very concerning for me. I mean, a player of Bruno's caliber who has been pretty much carrying this team on his shoulders and now making such decisions is a bit of a crisis situation, so to say. In fact, I thought this was one of the better Bruno games in the last few of the games. His passing accuracy was not as abysmal as it used to be in some of the previous games. And I thought he was doing some of the basics. Okay, he was, not giving away the ball so much and all of that. But then he does something like this, totally shambolic. And I think even though he's allowed to play the next 3 games and all, if Mount is fit, I think just bench Bruno at this point in time.
No, I absolutely agree. I mean, he needs to take a break, introspect, take a look at himself, see how he wants to contribute to the team. Because this is not done at all. I mean, I have been supportive enough of his cause, thinking that, his form will overturn, but these are mistakes which get punished at European level, and he cannot be behaving in such. I don't expect a Manchester United captain to behave that way after a red card in a Premier League game, he cannot be getting a successive red card in the European game. That is totally unacceptable for him. Which brings on to the question, what happens now? What happens in the Europa League? We have 2 points from 2 games. We are unbeaten in Europe, but very down in rankings. Can we finish top 8? Where do you see our chances?
I am not sure if it will be easy for us to finish top 8. I think we have a couple of relatively easier fixtures at home. So hopefully we should be winning those. But then we also have games like Fenerbahce away and all that. Like going to Mourinho's team away from home in a European game will not be easy. So on the turn of current evidence of form, I don't think we finished top 8. Maybe we finished somewhere between 9th and 24th, get that playoff game, and then it depends on who our opponent is.
In the next game for Europa League, we see United traveling to Turkey to our previous manager, the most successful manager after Sir Alex Ferguson, the special one, Jose Mourinho. And hoping that we get 3 points from that, hoping we can turn that into a sour defeat for Jose. But, you never know with this team. That's one of the problems. But yeah, hoping for the best for our next Europa game. All right. So that was us for the part 1. In the part 2, we'll be discussing about our upcoming game against Aston Villa, which is again a make or break game for Erik ten Hag.